assassination attempts, and after riding into town on a 77 million votes and a Republican House and Senate, they all got on board. Both parties had created the swamp, and both sides knew that something needed to be done about it. They talked about draining the swamp way back in the early 1900s. In the 1980s, when he was leaving California, President Reagan said he was going to Washington to stop the overtaxation, the overregulation, and runaway inflation. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? So here we are a couple of hundred days into President Trump's second term. And he's not just draining the swamp, he's leveling the global playing field to build a stronger American economy. He's lowering taxes and energy prices, making the country safer, ending the nuclear and terrorist threats from Iran, and calling the Chinese and Russians out for trying to reduce America's influence around the world. So there may be some politicians who are shaken up by the pace of all the change, but no one has stepped up to try to claim they could do better. Which brings me to our guest today, the veteran political analyst and the news editor from Washington, Bob Cusack. Welcome back, Bob.
Hey, Alan.
What an interesting time we are living in. You know, President Trump knows that anything he does, the Democrats will disagree with. And of course, Gavin Newsom is toward the top of that list, siding with people who were here illegally, harvesting marijuana, all in a country that wants crime reduced and isn't looking for more public pot smoking. Does Gavin Newsom have any idea what the American people voted for last year?
You know, I don't think so. I do think he's going to run for president in 2028, and he's certainly taking steps. He's going to have some company. But remember, Newsom had to deal with a recall effort, and a lot of Democrats in California are not fond of him. So, but he does have a following nationally. Can he actually win the nomination? I don't know, but the Democratic Party really, as you mentioned, got throttled in 2024. Have they learned their lesson? Have they changed? I don't see it, at least not yet.
Well, outside of doing everything they can to oppose President Trump, it seems the only consistent thing the Democrats have is how many of them are heading further to the left. You know, not just with the socialist New York mayoral candidate, but by listening to some of their other influentials. Listen to Tim Walz talking about the White House effort to get criminals off the streets.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense, not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye. Just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans, and disappeared.
Who's the dumbest
Do you think Governor Walz would actually prefer letting known criminals remain free? Or is he just playing to the cameras again?
He may be playing to the base because some people think he passed up a chance to run for the Senate and that he may run for president. I don't think he has as much of a chance at all to win the nomination. At the same time, it's weird for Democrats to be going after Trump on the border. There are other issues they could go after him poll-wise, but the border, he gets high marks. He has shut down the border, and a lot of centrist Democrats, they agree with that, and they think that Joe Biden and the border was out of control.
Former President Obama is giving more free advice to his party. He says Democrats have to fight harder. The full quote is, "It's going to require a little bit less navel-gazing and a little less whining and being in the fetal positions," his words. "And it's going to require Democrats to just toughen up." But he said nothing about the violence that some Democrats are taking part in. Bob, this reminds me of how his pre-election comments felt pretty flat on black men when he was trying to get them to vote. Do you think he's actually stoking the violence now? And are party elders even paying much attention to him anymore?
I just don't understand why. I mean, Trump won, and then he came to the White House saying, "I won because of common sense," and that resonated. He didn't say that in the first term. I think it resonated more in the second term. Why Democrats can't go after violence? They can support what the protesters are saying, but violent protesters, that should always be condemned. And Barack Obama, it's interesting to see like what kind of pull he has in the party. He had some missteps since he's left office as far as not wanting Biden to run, and then he really didn't want Harris to run. But what happened was Democrats lost.
Well, you know, it's no secret that politicians from both parties follow the polls. And every poll shows that the American people want those who are here illegally, especially the criminals and gang members, to be captured and evicted. Why can't the Democrats see that and come up with a migrant agenda of their own?
You know, it's interesting because Democrats, as you alluded to before, they go after everything that Trump wants to do, whether it's the bill, the border. They criticize him, but they don't have an agenda yet. Where do they stand? What would they do if they win back Congress? I don't think they have a shot to win back the Senate, but the House is up for grabs in the midterms. We don't know. They haven't articulated that. We really don't know who the face of the Democratic Party is. And, you know, when you think back to Obama was much tougher on the border than Biden was. It was almost like night and day. And obviously Trump has brought it to a whole new level.
Well, Bob, please stay with us for another segment. It's a busy time, and we appreciate your inside view of things. I'll be right back. The 19th and 20th on our campus here at World Outreach Church, just outside of Nashville. We've chosen 3 specific topics to explore with a wonderful group of guests. We're going to talk about the church and our expected impact in this culture, the media and their impact in our culture, and then finally, our health, how we can be healthy in the midst of all these competing voices we're hearing. The real goal is how we take our integrated in our world so we have better lives, stronger families, and strengthen our nation. Join us for Culture and Christianity here in Murfreesboro. Auto pin issue. It's well reported that Biden's team used the auto pin on as many as 4,000 people. And it now looks as though the chief of staff, Jeff Zients, was the one handling the approvals, the not elected chief of staff. Republicans want to get to the bottom of it, and Congress is working on that now. Listen to how big a deal President Trump thinks this is.
The auto pen, I think, is maybe one of the biggest scandals that we've had in 50 to 100 years. I guarantee he knew nothing about what he was signing. I guarantee it.
You know, the congressional investigation has just gotten underway, but do you think some of these pardons may be overturned?
It's a good question, and I think it's worth investigating. Now, the auto pen has been around a while, but the amount of times that Biden used it, and recently he spoke out publicly, a lot of Democrats want Biden just to go away and stop talking, whether that's Biden, Joe, or Hunter Biden, who also recently spoke out on why Democrats lost the election. I do think this is going to be interesting to see what they find. You have a lot of people who worked around Biden taking the fifth, so they're not talking about it. But I do think it's a valid investigation of who was calling the shots in the White House, because there was, I've heard from many sources, there were some good days for Joe Biden as far as his mental acuity, and there were a fair amount of bad days where he did not recognize people.
Well, Senator Rand Paul has his eye specifically on overturning the pardon of Anthony Fauci. You know, the senator has never trusted what Fauci said about his COVID Wuhan lab. Senator Paul got his medical degree at Duke University, by the way. Do you think Fauci may be vulnerable, especially if President Biden didn't approve or sign the pardon?
You know, it could. All these issues, you know, Congress doesn't decide it, the White House doesn't decide it, goes down to the courts, and of course, the Supreme Court is the final say on a lot of these things. It could end up there. This is an unusual situation. You know, Fauci and Senator Paul were never bowling buddies. They went at each other repeatedly in congressional testimony back and forth. And I do think that a lot of these people who were working on COVID, who instantly dismissed, by the way, that COVID could have originated from the lab. And I don't know why that became a partisan argument. It was a distinct possibility. And now more and more experts think it did come from the lab in China.
Andrew Cuomo isn't going away. Having lost his attempt at the Democratic nomination for New York mayor, now he wants to run as an independent. Well, I know you live in Washington, but you grew up in New York, and Cuomo can make a comeback. Ron Mamdani. At the same time, former New York Republican Taki, he thinks Republican Curtis Sliwa has a chance. How do you see it at this point?
This is a fascinating race. I mean, Democrats obviously, well, at least in the middle, Democrats, centrist Democrats, they don't really have anyone to turn to. I mean, they could turn to Cuomo or the sitting mayor now, Adams, but they both have skeletons in their closet. They could vote for the Republican in the race, you know, but it's tough to win as a Republican. At the same time, if you're an independent-minded Republican like Michael Bloomberg, you can win, who eventually became an independent and then a Democrat. But I do think there's so much fear of New York going so far left that Cuomo has a shot. I think if you're going to pick one, and I do think it's smart for Cuomo to say, hey, guys, if whether that's Adams or Sliwa, if we don't have it, if you're behind me, then you get out. If I'm behind you in the polls, I'll get out, because they're going to have to consolidate in order to win this race. But listen, Democrats win in New York most of the time, but I do think this could be a wild card.
Well, with such an overwhelming liberal majority in the city, in practical terms, what's it take to get an independent mayor?
You know, I think it was going to take a lot of money, that's for sure. And Mamdani, I mean, people just are really afraid of him. Republicans for the country want him to lose and would rather have someone else, one of the three, win. But at the same time, politically, if he does win, well, then he is the face of the Democratic Party, at least for a short amount of time. And that helps Republicans, being that he is a socialist. And there's just a lot of money going to Cuomo. Adams, I think, less so. So watch Cuomo. Cuomo also has to campaign better. He kind of wanted to glide to the nomination. He didn't do a lot of interviews. Who didn't do a lot of interviews in 2024? Harris. Who didn't do a lot of interviews in 2016? Hillary Clinton. You can't be cautious and win such a big prize, and being the mayor of New York is a big prize. So I think Cuomo has learned from that, and I think he's going to be a better campaigner. He knows how to campaign. He knows how to win. This could be a very close race.
Well, before we run out of time, let's look ahead to the midterms. You know, obviously the margins are close, but there's a history of the losing party rebounding at the halfway mark. And without a policy strategy of any sort, I'm wondering how the Democrats could rebound by the end of next year. Is it just too early to tell if the Democrats can regain the House or Senate?
I think the Senate's going to be out of reach. If you look at the map, Alan, it's just not friendly for Democrats. There are a lot of Republicans who are in safe seats. Democrats have had a number of retirements in purple seats, so Republicans could actually add to their majority in the Senate. The House is a different story. The House, the margin is very close. As you mentioned, usually in midterms, the opposing party wins. I do think the Democrats would be wise to come up with some agenda. If they continue to just go after Trump and say he's a fascist and call him names, I don't think they're going to win the midterms. I think they got to have a certain policy a platform like they did in 2006 when George W. Bush was flailing in his second term. They had a policy agenda. They put it out right before the election. They won the House and the Senate. Right now, Democrats don't know where to go. Why? What's different between now and 2006 back then? Well, a lot of them want to go left. So if you have a policy agenda, a lot of the Democrats are split. They want to go left, and others say no. They don't want to do the AOC policy agenda, the Bernie Sanders policy agenda. So there's the rub right there. It's a very difficult situation for Democrats, but I've never seen the Democrats be in such disarray as they are right now.
Well, I've got one more question. Trump's pace and what he's accomplished in a couple hundred days is really unprecedented. Do you think he has enough things still on his to-do list that he can maintain this pace for the foreseeable future?
He's got a lot of energy, Alan. As you know, I've interviewed him. He loves to be interviewed. He thinks of ideas all the time. He acts like a executive producer. He's like, okay, here's the show today. Here's the policy thing today. I do think he knows that he could lose the House or Senate, more likely the House, as I just mentioned. So he wants to take advantage of these 2 years where he's got full control. And I do think you're going to see some more interesting. And listen, whatever you think of Donald Trump, he has a creative mind. He thinks of things we haven't thought of, like Greenland. And when you look into the Greenland issue, it is a national security issue. A lot of people scoffed at it. But yes, I do think Donald Trump is going to be hitting the gas until the midterms. There's no doubt about it.
Greenland and the Gulf of America. What do we see next? Bob Cusack, thank you for your inside knowledge of the Washington scene. It's sure a fast-moving scene these days. We'll have you back real soon for an update.
Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it.
In a moment, some rays of hope ahead and some advice for getting there. I'll be right back.